given a voice to the voiceless. We share the stories behind our freedoms and the ultimate sacrifice of those who protect us all. This is Patriots Inside the Wire.
Beautiful thing to see the family and friends come together and honor his life and his service to our country.
It's great to see you guys out here. This is awesome, really.
Welcome to the Patriots Inside the Wire broadcast, hosted by Gold Star mom, Tracy Two-Step.
Welcome to the show tonight with Patriots Inside the Wire and the Tree of Valor. We hope you're all doing well out there. Please grab your loved ones, share, like, subscribe. You can find Patriots Inside the Wire every platform. I recommend YouTube. You can engage with us on the platform, send questions. We have a story tonight coming out of the Tree of Valor, literally from the Tree of Valor with Miss Lori Egerter. And we have our special guest tonight, and I'm supposed to call him Dave, but I'm going to let Lori and Dave get into the story of tonight. So welcome to the show and enjoy Patriots Inside the Wire. Lori?
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Tracy, so much. I really want to start by telling the story of how we met.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. This is David Hamel, Dave Hamel. And your rank is, tell us so that I don't.
Chief Master Sergeant.
Chief Master Sergeant from the Air Force. I went to a VFW event a few years ago in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I had our trees all set up. And all of a sudden, I hear these voices of people looking at some of the trees. And I hear someone say, well, first, I see them talking about the trees. And so I'm kind of like eavesdropping to see whether they know what they're talking about, right? And so, right. So finally, I hear this voice say, I just wish I knew who did this, who did these trees. Well, of course, I go bouncing over like Easter Bunny, right? And I introduce myself. And we have this moment where he then proceeds to tell me that this fine gentleman, Dylan Marola, is who?
I'm his godfather. And Dylan, my godson. And this timing being what it was, to see it on a tree in this middle of this veterans convention just kind of caught my eye, caught me back a little bit, the timing of all things. And so I want to ask Lori about how this came to be. And she told me the story of the Trees of Valor and how this one became about, because that was fairly recent. And there was Dylan.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It is Gold Star Awareness Month. So I don't know if a lot of people even know. Some people don't even know what that means. So I say Gold Star and Survivors of the Fallen. And they give that term in the military, just for those out there who are probably listening and don't understand what we're speaking about. It would mean that someone that's serving active duty is no longer with us. So rather than getting in too deep, that's a very easy way for you to explain when someone says Gold Star, or I say Survivors of the Fallen. That helps the definition for the civilians out there. Now, Chief Master Dave, I know that you know exactly what that is. And so first, thank you for your service. Second, my heart to every single person and family, the siblings, all of us out there, that hits right here. So I know that. And I just want to say that as a mother to anyone out there, to the siblings, it hits right here. So I can understand when you saw the trees, that's how we met as well. So tell me more.
Well, when you're in the military and you're serving, especially during all these warriors in Afghanistan, Iraq, we lose people all the time, especially in the Fort Bragg area, 82nd Airborne, Special Forces. But when you get one that kind of hits home, it's just different. You never expect that it could be a family member somewhere that close. It's always a community thing. You feel part of that family. But in this case, it was something that was a direct hit. So, and that kind of closed out this long war that had been going on for 20 years. But yeah, timing being what it was, but we keep the memories alive. They're never forgotten. And that's why the Trees of Valor is one way of doing it. Service in the community with veterans groups is another way. And so I'm involved trying to keep that alive also.
Yes. And tell me where you were. Which state were you in when were you there, Lori, in your home state?
No, it was here in North Carolina.
It was there in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, you know, I was thinking because it is May and it's Gold Star
Awareness
Awareness
Gold Star
Month. I feel like going forward, you know, I always like to change things up or whatever. I think every week we should just highlight just one veteran of all different ways. It doesn't have to be KIAs. It can be just someone different every week. Just like, you know, if anybody knows Cheryl Rex, right? I'm going to tag her, but you know, I want her to know that we're talking about Dylan. So I'm going to sit this little light here, right? This is going to be our little, put him here. See, I don't know if you can't really see him. Maybe if I bring him over here. Okay. I'd rather show his face than mine. But no, really. I mean, you still really can't. Oh, maybe you want to go like this.
You're good.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, he's with us right now. So
Yeah.
during
Yeah,
the
I
show,
was gonna definitely. That's how I'm like that. Mine, they're all with us still, so I'm good. I'm always like, it's okay to talk about anything. It doesn't bother me. I would move it over a little bit, Lori, because it's literally blocking. Like as soon as there you go. As soon as you turn, like we can't see you. So we are live right now. We're talking to you at Patriots Inside the Wire with the Tree of Valor, and we have in here Chief Master Sergeant David. Pronounce your last name before I mess it up. Is it
Hamel,
Hamel.
like Dorothy, or
like Dorothy Hamel? Yes, and I have a Southern accent, so that is why I wanted to clarify that. So David Hamel, you how long were you in the service?
I served over 30 years active duty in the Air Force.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service again. That is a very long time. I can't, and you as an individual serving that long, I bet that you did see a lot of things. You just talked about a war that was 20 years. You know, we've got multiple eras that would probably fit all three of us within that. And I would bet that you yourself had to serve, deploy, and do things in the military that give us our freedoms that we have right now.
Yeah, directly or indirectly. I mean, it could be both. I came in this Vietnam by about a year and a half. That war ended in 75. I came in delayed enlistment in 76 and then went active in 77. So, but the Cold War was very much alive and hot at that time. I came into aircraft maintenance, and of course, my first duty station was in Bitburg, West Germany. East and West Germany was very much, cold and hot with the Cold War. So that was the front line for its time when I was over there, 78, 79, and 1980.
He has an amazing story. Like he literally has.
Yeah.
We talked
Go
about
for it.
his books. Actually, each book moves his story from one into the other. So I really wanted him to talk about like what started the first book, because it seems like he lives a life and then a book comes. He lives a life. So I don't know if you want to start like your newest book or start with the first book, but do you have your books?
Yeah, sure.
I found them all, so I will be pulling
Oh,
up pictures of the books. So I actually did find them all. So why don't we let you start? Go ahead. We're live. So the more we get out right now, the better. So
Sure.
let's let you tell your story.
Well, it's like anything else, and you can't make it up sometime. For me, the Great Awakening was the Boston Marathon bombings. I'm a marathon runner, 26.2. I was training for a run here in North Carolina. I got home to turn on the TV, check out my shoes, and I'm from Massachusetts, so the Boston Marathon is big. So April each year is the Boston Marathon. On Patriots Day, it's the first shots of Lexington and Concord during the American Revolution. So you got to watch it. I mean, that's what we do. Red Sox play too, by the way.
Yeah.
But then the bomb went off, and what caught me right at that instant on TV was the race clock time, which was 4:09. 4 hours and 9 minutes is when the first bomb went off, in 20-something seconds, I believe. But the idea of the 4:09 became a hey you moment, because you always remember your first marathon, which for me was 4:09.
Oh,
So
wow.
it kind of woken me up, and as the story goes on later, I had 3 other 4:09 marathon finishes, and that by itself are separate stories. But 13 seconds later, the second bomb went off. And part of that, an 8-year-old boy was killed, Martin Richard. And so that, the smoke and all that triggered other thoughts or brought me back to Oklahoma City. In 1995, when that happened in April, all these significant times, 168 were killed when Timothy McVeigh's truck bomb went off in Oklahoma City. 21 to 25 babies in the daycare center were killed. And so that was at 9:02 a.m. So the book is titled 9:02 to 4:09 because the Boston explosions started that journey. And so I was pretty angry, but I needed to get back to Boston for redemption. And I was able to get in on the charity team to run Boston in 2014. And that began the book journey, how that story started.
Now, how about the second 902?
Well, after I went back to Boston in 14, I thought I put that bombing behind me with the Sarnia brothers and take it back and, you know, Boston strong. I got back home. I said, okay, we got one victory pretty much. But little teddy bear at my desk was saying, you're not done yet. You need to go back to Oklahoma City. So 2016, I go back to run the Oklahoma City Memorial Marathon that they have now. And it was where the bomb site was. It's a beautiful memorial. At 9:02 a.m. where the Murrah Federal Building was is a reflecting pool. And there's 168 glass chairs behind it that remembers 168. Each
Lori,
side.
can you see this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
What you see there too is that survivor tree in the background, and that tree was significant to this day in Oklahoma City.
We had a guest come on. So we've done a whole show actually on exactly what you're talking about, who's very, very active in that area. It'd be neat to connect the two of you with the runs that they're doing now, because she does a lot of that, these runs. So I'll have to on back channels connect Lori. He needs to connect to somebody. Shout out to Heather Viveros out there. So out there rucking it up in the runs that she's doing. And it is because that's where she lives. Same story. That's what pushed her. So you have that in common. So going from there, keep telling me more. I want to hear more, because you have 4 books literally already out, right?
Yes. Another one comes out in June. Can't make it up, but it all.
You could, but you're not.
No, I could. I'll work on that though. Yeah, I was stationed at Altus Air Force Base in Oklahoma at the time of the Oklahoma City bombing, and my wife and I were there in Oklahoma City for fertility treatments. Probably not a good time to try to do the baby thing, but the explosions happened and threw us off. We were not successful on our first attempt, and so we're.
Are you, Dave? I have a question. I'm sorry. Are you aware of what that bomb was in?
It was in a Ryder truck, a rental truck.
It was in a rental vehicle. Yes,
Yeah.
You'll have to tell them why. I asked Lori later. There's a true story that one day will get out, but there's a real reason
that I already did tell him that story.
You did? Okay. Well, everyone can know because the truth is coming out. But yes, I'm glad that you brought that up. Thank you. I wanted someone to bring up how that related, because I talk about this quite a bit. So thank you.
May 28th, that's coming out, that story.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
Nice.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
We were literally parked in near the McVeigh's spot at that time the day before to pick up a T-shirt for my mom at the YMCA, which is around the corner. My mom was back in Massachusetts who worked at a YMCA and said, you're going to be a grandma here if all this goes through. And so I need to get you a T-shirt from the YMCA, which she didn't have at that time. And then we got on with it. But when the explosion went off and we saw where we were parked, and then the YMCA was pretty much, really damaged. It was like, wow, how close we came. We continued our attempts for, with in vitro through all this craziness. We weren't successful, but we decided if we did have a child, it would have been named Murrah Okasity Hamel. Murrah for the building, Okasity for the city. So it was named. The baby just didn't come along after several more attempts. Of course, the recovery operations continued. It was such a mess. And this year's the 30th anniversary since that bombing. So the years fly by. But when I went to run the marathon, ironically, I did not stop running after mile 26. I continued to the memorial area. And all these years, I was stuck in this 902 until Boston happens. And by the way, 9/11 happened shortly afterward of 2001.
And that was at what time?
Second plane, they say 9:03, which is kind of true. The initial contact time was 9:02:59. So my mind is still stuck in 9:02 all these years. And once I came across the finish line and I got to the memorial, there's two gates of time, 9:01 and 9:03 at each end of the memorial. So I finished the memorial, the marathon. There's a whole story with that race. And I walked through the 9:01 gate and then stop at 9:02 at the reflecting pool. And I said, all these years, by 1 second, I could not break 9:03. So I have to walk through that 9:03 gate to let go.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how the story ends. It's about letting go, but everything in between is a must read. Can't make it up.
Wow. I like this. I like, not what you, so did you enter, you mentioned Vietnam. So that's pretty close to my heart too, taking care of all of our veterans, but the Vietnam veterans, of course. There's a lot of things that need to be done to be made up for, in my humble opinion, that I am allowed to give, because we all have that freedom to do so. Because of someone like Dave here who did serve, and of course Lori and I both too. Tell me more. So here you're a runner, marathons, the books, but we're going to the in Boston. We're talking about the bombing. We've mentioned Timothy, his name. So hopefully anyone that's following us, it does not need too much more of a definition. And Lori, I know, has her notes over there. So keep on pace there. Yeah, keep on pace there.
Indeed.
So yeah, keep going. I want to hear more.
So I got done with Oklahoma City and figured that was the end of that. And that's what started my writing. I got back and so I got to somehow tell the story, if anything, for therapeutic reasons. But through that, people were, well, what's the rest of your marathon story? I mean, I've talked basically 3 major U.S. events involving a couple of marathons, and that was good. But someone said, what's a successful marathon runner? And I said, well, if you can run 100 marathons and maybe do one in all 50 states and have one finish in Boston, that would be a trifecta of success. So that led into a trifecta. The most recent version is the 31 years of 26.2, because I just retired from the marathon last year. So I ended up having 131 marathons, all 50 states, and 2 Bostons. So that was what rolled up into that book. And the second Boston is in there, which is a story in itself.
So we're back to Boston again.
Boston
Yes.
2.
Boston 2. Okay. And I have several in here. I was able to pull up a few. You saw earlier. You'll probably get to telling me more about this one. But we pulled this up earlier because we keep mentioning the numbers. So I wanted everybody to see that. And of course, they're going to hear this from you. But it's David Hamel on tonight, acclaimed author, veteran, over 30 years, marathon. We're talking about Boston. Actually, we're talking about a lot of different subjects that are important. Lead me into that second book.
Well, when I started writing Trifecta, it was my running story, how I got started, and the years go by, and how you start with a 5K, a 10K, and you kind of go up to the half marathon. And several events happen that kick off your first marathon, and you never forget that one. And I covered all that up to the first Boston. The second Boston was what is kind of unique, because you don't get into Boston without qualifying unless you can get on a charity team. And I got lucky the first time. I couldn't qualify. I came close. But in Benghazi, Libya, 2012, 4 people were killed during that compound raid. One was Glenn Doherty. And I was trying to get in that charity team at that time for the 2013 race. Problem was 2013, the Boston Marathon bombings happened. So couldn't get in. I tried to get in on a different charity team, which was Project Hope Boston, was for the homeless. But someone dropped from the Glenn Doherty team. I said, man, I really want in on that one. So I talked to the director and I said, I'm already set up, but she never forgot me. So fast forward 21, here all these years later, she still had my name and they had 4 bib numbers. Well, that year, Boston was moved till October because of COVID. It was always in Boston for 120 something years. And this one year, the marathon gods got pushed over till October, which put it on Columbus Day weekend. So I got picked up for the Glenn Doherty team. Someone dropped once again, and I get this call from the same director of the Glenn Doherty team from back then that remembered me from. It was crazy. And the reason is the Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation is set up to raise money for Special Forces transition programs. And I'm a Special Forces, a contractor, basically training some of these soldiers. So my hand is in that community. I said, hey, give me a shot at it. I want in, and I'll help raise the money. And Glenn Doherty's a Boston boy, so that's how all that got started.
So
Yeah.
Can I ask you about that? So you just said transition teams. Do you mean transitioning from you're done to into civilian life?
Right. For special operations.
Right. Because I would think that is a completely different kind of transition.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard for, I don't want to say regular veterans, regular service members, but I can't imagine people who are
A different MOS, a different position. Some of those
not
can be
even that, but I mean the intense
every transition, you know.
The world is tighter and smaller, and they have, issues that are probably a little deeper sometimes, but there's transition programs out there to help them out. Since Glenn Doherty was a special operator through that time, that program was designed to help raise funds for those programs. I got lucky, somebody dropped. I happened to be involved in the programs. I want in, and so I got in with Glenn, and that story was quite interesting. His call sign was Bub Doherty. And so when I was doing my training runs on Fort Bragg, there was a place called Bragg Unique Boutique. And it's called, you always see the sign, but when you're running, you see something closer. It said Bub, welcome to the Bub. And so Glenn was sending me little signals, you're going to hear from me soon through that maze of things that happened. So Bub Doherty, Glenn Doherty. I get the acceptance to come to the Boston Marathon, but a few days after that, a few things that had happened. And I'm like, wow, this is fantastic. But that was only the first leg.
We kept saying that there's all these things that only God could have.
Yeah.
Like back to back, they're not coincidences. You kept having an occurrence, literally, that built up and led you down each path is what was happening. So, and aligning you.
All those training runs that were associated with that, you have to read the book because it just didn't stop. It just kept going on and on. During that training time, through the summer, because the marathon was in October, August 21st happened. And that was the 13 at the Kabul Abbey Gate disaster there. So here I am training for Glenn, and one episode, this happens, and that kind of changed the dynamic going to Boston the second time. But of course, you never forget the notifications when something like that happens, when the 13 were killed. Ryan Noss was a PSYOP troop at Fort Bragg, so we knew him as he was one of our trainees, I guess, at the time. And we went downtown, and so I got to set up 13 beers for these guys at our local watering hole downtown, Foo Bar, Spring Lake. And when I did that, all the names weren't out. Ryan was our key guy, but then I got the call from my cousin, Cheryl, and she was on her way to Dover. And that's when she was telling me that Dylan didn't make it. And then that you need to come back to California when all the dust settles and do the funerals and things. But that was unique timing. You can't make that up. But I'm sitting there with my buddies and saying, you okay? And I said, I don't know how to tell you this, and I probably won't. But for now, right now, it was the 13 years for those guys. So, yeah, it's Dylan and Cheryl, great picture there. But that was my initial notification. I'm sure hers was a lot worse. When you get the knock on the door kind of thing, it's always not good for anybody. But it didn't end there. After all the funerals, I went to Boston and run the marathon, and it was for Glenn. 4 of us were on the team. One was a Boston cop, and everybody's carrying the flag for Glenn. And I'm catching up to him by mile 20, and he's hobbling along and hurt. And I said, this isn't good. And I said, Rick, you all right? And I said, I think I blew out my knee. I'm hobbling. He's biting his knuckles and things. Oh, this isn't good. So I'll be your wingman. I'll hang on your right side. If you need a fall or lean, we're going to keep moving. We're not stopping. So he's carrying a flag for Glenn. But mile 22, some guy jumps the barrier and comes after me and him. I'm doing a blocking action. He says, are you a veteran? I says, yeah. He says, "Take my flag." And then he jumps back across the barrier. So I'm assuming he's a veteran, but I wasn't sure what to expect. So now I've got a flag. So Rick, who's hurting with Glenn's flag, is kind of laughing. He said, "You think Glenn is messing with me right now?" I said, "Dylan's messing with you. He wants part of the action. So that's why you got the flag. And we're going to make it both together." So the classic ending in Boston was both of us crossing the finish line with these two flags. It's an amazing, amazing
I like
story.
that.
Yeah.
And then he comes into the gallery and sees one of them on a tree. And the crazy thing is someone just, when was this? Just last week, was telling us the story.
For Tyrone?
Yes, for Tyrone.
Yeah.
And we were putting them together on a tree. And he recognized Tyrone on the tree.
One of the four,
Nice.
one of the Benghazi, Libya thing is, well, Glenn's got to be in there next.
Yeah. So now we have to add
We're gonna
him.
have to fix that and
Yeah.
add him to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, see what I mean? Like, and so he's actually going to write the story board to go on the tree.
Oh, nice.
Veterans should be writing, like, each one of these trees needs a story, but it's not my place to write the stories because it's not my story to tell. So if you're a veteran,
telling them, you're doing it right now.
if you're a veteran, and we really want people to help veterans to help us write the stories of the trees.
And there's many out there. I'm at my VFW post quite a bit, and we'll be sitting there and looking at each other. So, you know how much history is sitting right here? You got Korea, Vietnam, and the old guys too. At Korea, all the way up to present. And you never know who's sitting right next to you. So we need to get our stories out.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So we're going to do a little shout out. Something else new we're going to do, so I don't forget. So I know how much you love boxing and fighting.
Oh,
Tracy.
yeah.
So-
Not fighting, but UFC,
Yes.
MMA.
You know how right at the end of all the fights, they're like, who are you going to call out? Right? You got to call somebody out. Who do you want to fight next? So I told him he's going to be the first one to do this. So I hope you're prepared. I told you on the phone. I said, who are you going to call out that should be on the podcast? You like that?
Uh-oh. Yeah.
So they don't have to say yes, but I want each guest to call out then like a potential guest.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you better think of them before the end, or you're going to stay here all night.
Yes, so everyone knows my secret now. I actually really
Don't be
do
surprised.
like MMA, martial arts, UFC, all of that has always been something that I've been close to way before military ever entered with me. Well, it's been in my family's history, but myself, direct, I don't mean my father, I'm talking about my son. But anyway, so yes, not fighting, but UFC, martial arts, MMA, all of that. And yes, so at
Most
the
of our
end, I know what
family-
you're talking about.
Even Lexi loves that. She's there in her little wheelchair, and she's
And
like,
it's like-
her little fits are up
Yeah,
in the air.
Yeah, I'm bobbing and weaving already. So
So everybody needs to give Lexi a shout out because she is watching.
yeah,
And I heard, Tracy, last week that Lexi will not go to bed at night until the show is over.
yep.
Please
And
stop
I've got
doing
Lexi Girl covered. I make sure that I say her name multiple times as well. Lexi is there with the Tree of Valor. For those of you tuning in right now, they are at the Tree of Valor Gallery there in North Carolina. The Tree of Valor is our partner with Patriots Inside the Wire on Wednesday nights. We're on tonight live at Patriots Inside the Wire. Lexi is the daughter of Lori, who's the founder of the Tree of Valor. And Lexi gets to pick out each day a certain tree. She's very, very, very active. She is a sibling. Also, this is important to me. I have siblings here too in this house, and the siblings, the families, I want to make sure that we take care of everyone. I want to take care of the families and the veteran. I want to take care of the fallen families, the survivors, and that includes the siblings. I feel like not only do they need to know these stories, like you said, Dave, they need it too. We've got to get the history back to the core of what is the truth out there. And I believe that we can actually help literally the full family. So
I did tell him about your passion for that because I felt like it was important for him to understand.
Yes,
you know,
I feel like we forget about them, the
you know.
siblings for sure.
Yeah.
So that was
Sending
just,
our love to Lexi. We already got Lexi messages.
Apparently, she hoots and hollers at home.
Yeah. And so Lexi is Lori's daughter. And so if you've ever been around the Tree of Valor, you know exactly who Lexi is. But back to you, Dave. I want to hear more because now we've got, we're on, it's book 2, right? You know, I do obviously want to say, you know, to not only just you, but to the entire 13, I do know this story well and say that my heart goes out to each and every single person all the way down the line, and not even just them, but everybody out there who's had a loved one and served or is serving in general. But listen, when it comes to the other end and you're serving active duty, you step up that ultimate sacrifice of not coming home, literally to your home. I just want to say that my heart goes out to you. I didn't know much about you and being connected with the 13, but the 13 have my love and respect. That's for sure. It's just, it sucks. I hate saying the word sorry. So it's always like, for me, I say it really sucks, but man, I just want to give a big hug to everyone out there and say, you know, that we're here for you. We see you, we hear you, and the more we can do, we will keep trying. So we mean well. We hope that we're going to do something. We do have a lot in the works, Dave. So let's get back to your story.
Book, which are we 3? Book 3.
I think we were covering the marathon book, but anyway, it goes on. After Boston, I had 130. I was going to hang it up. I said I needed 2 more service marathons. The Navy and the Coast Guard didn't have any. Lo and behold, the Coast Guard comes up with their inaugural marathon that January, within my training cycle in North Carolina. So that's how I ended up at 131. And the Navy had a virtual thing that had come up, and that's how I got all 6 service races that I wanted to do. And I closed it up with that.
And he's done every 50 states, a marathon in 50 states.
Yeah, all 50 states. 50 staters is always interesting because you get to do each state, but each one was so different.
Now, where does the hockey come in?
I always played hockey as a kid. Now I had.
You said Boston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, big Bruins fans, and everybody in New England likes to skate and play ice hockey. But Fort Bragg's got some great ice out there, and so I've been playing there since I was stationed there. Matter of fact, I'll be back out next week. So I'm still playing ice hockey, but we had some great teams all through the 2000s, 2010s, and 20s, and so I was able to get on a couple teams to go to the state games each year in Charlotte. So all the teams from all North Carolina compete. Never won the gold, but I had 4 times that we went there, and I ended up with a silver and a gold. A bronze and a silver. But just to be the old guy out there is probably the closest I'll ever get to a Stanley Cup. But what great cross training it is for marathon.
Yes, it's just a great story.
That was the key to that.
You don't meet people who play hockey that often.
Well, if you that's why I said he's Boston. Like in Boston, they definitely, it's kind of like in, you know, I came to Texas and everybody played soccer, and I was like, it was more football where I was from. So I was like, oh, okay. So Boston, I definitely think of hockey for sure. You've already called out your team.
Red Sox, man.
I heard that.
Heard homie. I've been spoiled. I mean, you know, the Red Sox, the Celtics, the Patriots. You know, I've been pretty spoiled in my lifetime. They've all won major championships. So
yeah, they have actually. They've done quite well. I have a couple of pictures here, and I wanted to correlate these with your books too. I did obviously bring up the first one, but I think I'm going to go through here and let you tell us a little more about those. But I actually wanted to show your service picture first. So for those out there watching, this is the service picture that I was sent. That's a lot of stripes and a lot of ribbons there on your uniform.
Yeah, E9 Chief Master Sergeant for the Air Force. That's the kind of stripes we have under the new guidelines there. And of course, the badge on top is the Aircraft and Munitions Maintenance Badge for air maintenance.
Yeah. Thank you again for your service. That's amazing. I wanted to bring that up. And then we've got your books in here. You saw that I brought up one that I'll end up having a question, but I wanted to follow your story, and then you can tell me when to pull that up. So again, you're a veteran, you're an author, we're talking about the Boston, we're talking about marathons. You've been in 50 states. Every branch that's had a marathon, you've been in it. And you stumble into Lori at a convention for veterans in the Tree of Valor, which is amazing, by the way. If no one's seen this in person, you really do have to see it to understand it. But it's a living pictorial gallery that doesn't just stay in one place. It does go to other areas and can set up. So it is very beautiful. And so the Tree of Valor, you ran into the trees first instead of Lori. So I like that part. I love that. And then, are you still currently doing marathons?
No, I retired from that 2 years ago. That was the Coast Guard.
Okay.
And then the Navy was a local one.
Okay.
I'm finishing up my half marathons. I'll be running my 53rd half, ironically, here in Burlington on the 17th.
Oh, wow.
The Cedar Rock Trail Run is here locally, so I'll be back in town on the 17th.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I'm trying to keep it down to the 10 milers. I'm winding down. My knees and age are catching up. And I want to go out on top.
Yeah.
I go out broken. But yeah, keep the other, keep moving. It's good.
That's a very good thing to do. Do you have any tips out there for people who are looking to get into some type of running or even walk first, but they're thinking, maybe I want to do this? What would you tell them?
Right.
Yes, we do have Ty. I do have somebody serving active duty right now that I grab a hold of. That's Ty. He runs a lot and honors a lot of them. Do you have advice for that?
Trifecta covers a lot of that, but it focuses on the why versus the how. But either way, you still got to put one foot in front of the other and find your niche. You'll have days where you step out the door, feel great, and your goal is 3 miles, and you end up a mile and a half and you're sputtering, and that's it. And there's other days you get out there and you do 3, but you feel good, you go 6. You play it by ear, the weather, how you feel, but listen to yourself. It's going to tell you. Once you're willing to listen to yourself.
That works for me.
I can always do that without run the pain. And I'm like, listen, you idiot, you're getting older. Why don't you just kind of, adjust a few things? Age kind of.
It's impressive. It really is. I mean, and the timing. So we're only on number 2. And so your first book, the second book, and I want to make sure we get the correct titles out there too. If you want to name those off, I would do that for sure.
Well, we just finished with Trifecta, 31 years of 26.2. And then after that, what was that one after that? There's a couple of them. My Cold War life story. Yeah, what happened there was the other 2 books had my military stuff in the background. This is, all those years, Cold War and all that, but no one knew what the Cold War was. And I says, it was a Cold War, it was a global war on socialism and communism. What's so hard about that? Well, we don't teach that. I mean, unless you really lived and grew up during those years, the war was kind of a quiet one, really. So that led to my Cold War life. And then I went back to my pictures and, I came in the late 70s. First duty assignment was in Bitburg, West Germany. And I remember most of the time the sirens would go off. Our brand new F-15s would go up and scramble and chase the MiGs out and play the cat and mouse game. But that was the front line of the Cold War in Europe. And then I got done there, ended up in Plattsburgh, New York, which is upstate, north shore of Lake Champlain, an hour south of Montreal. But I was working bombers, which were nukes, FB-111s, and they were nuclear bombers. We had 9 of them ready to go, 24/7. So all that is what it was like, under that time. And then ended up in California on the SR-71 U-2 TR-1 spy plane program under President Reagan for 9 years, supporting those missions in Europe and South America and all over the world. So, but that was a very real war, as quiet as it was. And there was cost to that too. A lot of folks did get killed either in training accidents or other things that went on. And so I need to do maybe a quiet shout out to Judy Andrade in Connecticut. And Judy, if you're out there, her husband was my buddy of mine. We worked together in Plattsburgh on the 111s. He went on to Shaw, South Carolina, Shaw Air Force Base on F-4s back in 1985 and had an ejection seat accident. So he got killed when that seat went off. And so that was kind of a sad time there. But we kept in touch all these years with him, her, and the kids that grew up all these years later. So, but there are costs to peace even during the Cold War in its quiet way.
Right, and people don't talk about that.
No. Service sacrifice families, there's a different cost. And aircraft maintenance is dangerous inherently, and we work the ejection seats, egress systems, canopies, ejection seats, rockets, parachutes. So when you're working the ejection seat systems, they're designed to fire and save a life, but things don't go well, it can kill you. Can't have a bad day.
Definitely.
We actually have a shared friend, a mutual friend, Tracy, that a Gold Star mom, that her son, there's Heidi, that she lost her son.
Heidi that runs. I'm sorry.
But I think we have a mutual friend that she's a Gold Star mom. I want to say her last name is Ball.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
That she lost her son was, I don't know if he was.
I know who it is.
Yeah.
I know. I literally in person. They will probably be at the concert. We have a concert coming up September 27th, and that is one of the families that has been given one of the private invitations. So I do know that family pretty well, actually.
And then they get their names. I say this like it's a prize, but it's not. Their name goes on the side of the plane. Like in honor of them. They write their name is painted on them.
Sometimes they have
tell a little bit more about what you're talking about, because they're over here saying, what are you talking? We're talking about planes and putting names on them.
Well, we're talking about the fact that we lose people in ways people don't understand, and that it can be just as dangerous behind the scenes as all up in the scenes. You don't have to be on the front line infantry to get killed in the service.
That's right.
That needs to be said.
Unfortunately, there are so many different things that are great, but then again, there's so many different things. It's just like the world. There's good, bad, and ugly, in my opinion, a third. So you're going to have that also in the military when it comes to people. But there's a lot of things that happen that a lot of people don't talk about. I personally I thank everyone that's serving right now and has served. And my heart goes out always to families of our military, our first responders, our border patrol, every one of them. That's why we have every emblem up there in ours. We want to remember all, not just one, but all of them gave some gave all. But so we're very grateful and thankful for people like you who say and take that oath, foreign and domestic, to say, okay, we got your back. Like, this is what we're going to do. And so you're correct. There are many different ways, and I've had horrifying stories, and I've heard stories that others are more of a prominent story. And so we have both that we get to share on here. So I always like to make sure that we bring up any subject. It's not off limits. It depends on the family. So
but since he did bring it up, right? Since he brought it up, that it is dangerous, and I feel like it's a good time to talk about the fact that
it is. Dave, would you not agree in the military? Would you not agree that in the military, this is what I say, you're not technically going to work. You are going to train. You are going to prepare. You are literally preparing yourself for the fight. So when you join, it's not really safe. Actually, you're preparing and going in, and listen, this is what we're getting ready for. It's not like sitting behind a desk. Now, some people do, but still, even sitting, every part has to work in order to make the machine move. So each MOS, depending on which branch you're in, is very important. But there's so much that can happen in each area, in each division, each person that does their job. There's so many ways. And then what you mentioned as far as flights and the airplanes, the ejection seat, and the things that can happen. It's it's sad. I do want to make sure that we always remember all. You mentioned the name of the wife and those kids that are probably grown up right now wondering about their dad. And see, again, kids. So it's really big for me to go the siblings, kids, and to keep remembering them. And so you've experienced that firsthand as a veteran serving, literally, and then gone on and had that happen with the Boston, the like while you were there for a marathon, talking about that first story into the second story. And then we went to the Cold War story. You've got a book there that I brought up. That's book 3.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The front cover's got an SR-71 on it. That's what that aircraft is. It was
I was looking at that.
Quite the story on that airplane.
I was hoping everyone looked. I had it up for a little bit, and I tried to keep it up just a little bit longer because everyone's like, wait, I can't see the picture. And it says 3+ decades of silent battle, and it's My Cold War Life Story by David Hamel. And I found this on Amazon easily, actually. You can find David Hamel, and that's Hamel, David Hamel. You can find these books right here with the author tonight on Amazon. Very easy, actually.
And he's giving us just enough that really does make you want to go on there and buy them. I really do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You really want to read the story.
And I was only flashing this because of someone was teasing me earlier, but we have a picture here. I wanted to bring this up too. Here we go. That was the first one. So I wanted to make sure that they got a good look at that too. That's David Hamel there. He was talking to you about the numbers, the significance to him in those numbers, and trying to explain that to us there. Which book is this here, Dave?
That's the last.
That's the most recent release that came out this past week, Propel, Inspiring Airmen.
Okay.
What a perfect time for you to be here.
Propel, Inspiring
This is
Airmen.
book launch.
And
Book launch. There you go. Propel, Inspiring Airmen, David Hamel.
and that monument's here in North Carolina, and it's the story behind it is there's an air park on Pope Army Airfield now, part of Fort Bragg. But as you come on from Fort Bragg onto Pope, there's an air park with a C-130 and a 119 and some other airplanes. Opposite on the other side is this monument. It's a 14-foot obelisk with a broken propeller. And for years, it kind of intrigued me because I had all my airplanes behind that monument. It was a 23rd Fighter Group with the Flying Tiger teeth. And so when my unit moved, when I retired, all those planes moved with it. But that monument remained, and it's to Lieutenant Harley Pope. Well, in 1919, he's flying his little biplane in January at 7 o'clock at night running out of gas. Probably not a good thing to do. So he's attempting a water landing in the Cape Fear river, and it didn't go too well. He clipped the tree and crashed and drowned in the river. But is that he was looking for an airfield for Camp Bragg at the time. Timing being what it was, they named Pope Field after him. So the monument is from his home state in Bedford, Indiana. And so being a history buff, and I'm also a former director who was listed here as in history, I asked more about the plane and the propeller and the history behind it. And there wasn't much out there. There's no markers. There's nothing where the plane crashed. So I had to do all this research. So I called the museum in Indiana, said, I'm calling about your homeboy here. It's 104 years ago. But, do you have anything on him or any aircraft parts? And sure enough, they had the hub to the airplane. And I said, well, send me a picture of that. And I was matching it up to the propeller on the monument. And it was designed for aviation pioneers that were lost. And that's why it was designed that way.
Wow.
So that was neat. The problem was when I read the history, he didn't die alone. There was someone else in the airplane. Little JN4 was Jenny, was a 2-seater, and there was a sergeant with him. But who's Sergeant Fleming? So that began Propel because it brought me back to when I was director of Air Force Heritage and History at Maxwell Air Force Base, doing the World War II staff sergeant pilots who were enlisted. And we had the first enlisted pilot from 1912. There's a whole story there. But the pocket in between wars, no one knew these aviators or sergeants that flew. So now I have this new nugget of history. So that began that book, but it's all new history about Pope and Fleming, where they crashed.
Sounds like a new tree. No.
Could be. The interwarriors.
Right? I'm just saying, like, that's important.
It was still the Army Air Service.
Air Corps, you mean?
Air Service.
Oh,
Air Service, yeah.
Air Service.
I never heard of that.
Up through 1920s.
I've never
20s.
heard that.
So all that is new history in that book, but it's only an intro that brings me back to when I was director in Montgomery, Alabama, there at the Illicit Heritage Research Institute.
So Sergeant Fleming is someone who passed away too.
Yes.
Sergeant Fleming is someone who passed away. And so in your book and your research you're doing, again, it is this book, Propel, Inspiring Airmen, 2000 and 2004 and beyond, David Hamel. I'm making sure everyone's following where we're at right now. You discovered that there's actually someone else that was forgotten.
Yes. I mean, he's little known, he's out there, but where he fits in the history about enlisted aviators, there's no real accounting for many of them during those interwarriors. So I had to find out during World War I, they spun up some of these schools to train these folks, but the war ended pretty quick and it was downcycled. Any aviation badge he may have earned during his time was pulled away and disapproved, but it happened after he crashed. So he might have been wearing aviator wings, but it was disapproved afterward. And so those aviators didn't technically exist. It's kind of how it was written. So that fell through the cracks, but I resurrected that to kind of get that story about those enlisted aviators, Fleming, and then back at Maxwell in Alabama. Those years, 2000 and 2004, was when I was director there. And it's incredible stories of all the things we were involved with as far as Medal of Honor, monuments, dedications, John Levittow, Chapman, Pitzenbarger, I can go on and on. So that is a story in itself. But it brings you back to Pope at the end, and it needs how that concludes toward the end. Good writing.
Well, they need to check out the book. You've got the book Propel, and again, like I said, David Hamel, Hamel. You can find it very easily on Amazon. With all of them, actually, if they just look you up. Do you have a website, Dave, that you send people to?
Not yet. I've been using Linktree. If I'm familiar with that, www.linktr.ee/DG Hamel. If you go to that link site, it'll give you the overview of all 4 books. And then when you see it and you like it, then you click it and it'll take you to Amazon. Okay.
And are you also on a social media platform that someone could find?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook and Instagram. So when I post something, it's on both. But I need to increase some of that. Obviously, it's gaining some traction here and there. So, and I have another.
Is it under David Hamel? It's just under David Hamel. I found on Facebook. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So one thing that Dave and I talked about was we thought you might be able to help with this, Tracy. Was I said, so you've written 4 books. Would any of them be?
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Would any of them be a good movie?
Oh, yeah.
And his choice of the 4 was?
Well, 902 to 409. A lot of folks. So you got 3 major U.S. events in there that people could relate to. Mm-hmm. That would probably be a good selection. I mean, they're all great, obviously, but and Cold War, maybe.
Tracy knows a lot of people.
Depends what the interest. Never know. Throw it out there.
Yeah. People need to remember that, just because we're live now, that next Wednesday from 4 to 6, we'll be on 107.5 The Swamp. And you never know who's going to be listening to this.
That's true. That's true. We do have several people that we work with as well. But can you do the timeline for me again? Because anybody that wasn't tuned in earlier, we're talking about when we bring this up, the movie. She's talking about the movie, and she is Lori. So those of you that can't see us and you're tuning in right now, whether it's 107.5 The Swamp or you're into Heroes Media Groups, check that out. You can also find us at patriotsinsidethewire.com. We always keep the current episodes literally right there, or you can just go to YouTube and literally find this if you're listening to either the radio station or one of our shows. You can find the live broadcast pretty easy too. So, Lori, I always keep the current shows for every Wednesday that we do on the website. just so it's easy if someone's digging, trying to find, where it is. That way you'll know they can go there and find it, and it'll click them right over to the current show.
And
So
soon we're going
every
to
time-
add them to the Tree of Valor website.
Yeah,
But
I have you on
your
there.
YouTube. Yeah, we have to do it from your YouTube channel.
Yep, and I've got you on our website too. So, as the host of Patriots Inside the Wire, we call it. It's
Wednesday.
Warrior Night, and I do have a question too, and he just asked this for me. So we have someone that's part of our team. His name is Chief. What made you choose Air Force? That's what they'd like to know.
My father was 82nd and says, don't go in the Army. My other brother did end up going into armor. But I always liked airplanes, so it was just fitting that I would be heading in that direction. I made model airplanes as a kid, and
Yeah.
studied a lot of history, and airplanes
Yeah.
is what it turned out to be. So it was destiny.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got every branch, I think, in our catalog here. So, yeah, that's Air Force. So, what else? You mentioned, I wanted to go back to your timeline really quick because you mentioned the movie. So, do the timeline for me if you can there, Dave. Mention that again. That's important. So we're talking about the first time in Boston. And then now you're going here, you're talking about a movie because there were 3 significant events that happened during that duration. And what are those 3 significant events?
Well, 9:02 was Oklahoma City, 9:02 a.m. 409 was Boston Marathon explosion, but in between was the World Trade Center attack, September 11th. Second plane, it's always listed as 9:03, but the actual initial contact time was 9:02:59. Might not mean much by 1 second, but if you're stuck in 9:02, like I was, 1 second meant a lot until I came through that time wall in Oklahoma City.
Yeah. So I wanted to make sure everybody was following out there with the 3 and hearing it from you rather than just me.
And his next book, if you ask me, is probably going to be the best book. So that brings us to now and what he's actually been doing for 17 years, which I don't know how much of this he can talk about as a contractor, but it's pretty, for civilians especially, I think this is amazing that you would be in the service for 30 years. And then you must be started when you were 5 for 30 years. And now for the last 17 years, you've been a contractor.
Right. When I retired out of Pope, when the A-10s left and I had my 30, I was done. Some of the surge stuff was still going on, and the Army had Camp McCall, the Special Forces training area, and a lot of military soldiers were detailed out to role play for the engagements out in the woods to Camp McCall. Well, when they were snagged, they needed to backfill them, and so they were looking for retirees and just people that could maybe, role play and do engagements and talk to soldiers. So I said, sure, I'll try the Army blue to green thing. And I just ended up enjoying it. So it's gained a lot of traction when I'm out there at Camp McCall. I'll play various roles in various, uniforms or
Do you have a favorite?
Arab, just about everything from Arab garb to a mayor or a police chief, or whatever it might be, a villager, rioter.
What have you gotten the most out of? What was your...
I just enjoy them all. The key leader engagements are probably the fun part, where a team, say, parachutes in, they break into a team, they go in these villages and meet us role players, and then they got to meet a village elder, and a lot of it's communication. Hi, I'm Sergeant so-and-so from the USA. I'm here to help. And so I'm Joe Mayer from Pineland, and we need everything because we're in a war-torn country. And how do you communicate and get to those things? So the communication stuff, as these newer generation of folks come in, how do you shake hands, look me in the eye, don't lie to me, don't give me no BS, what's, just basic communication. So, but I enjoy that, and the training value is good, because through those years, Iraq and Afghanistan was still going pretty strong, and a lot of those people who did train come back as instructors, and I remember you and those kind of things. So it's kind of a compliment. First of all, they survived their deployments. They made rank, and now they're back here as instructors, and we're still there. So that's a compliment in itself.
I was going to say that's a very big thing to literally not just surviving the war itself and surviving transition, like you mentioned earlier. There's the transition part. So, and then, yeah, hats off to you for between all the writing, the running. You're still out there and you're getting after it for what you're doing to help the community.
That's like almost 5 decades.
Yeah, I was definitely thinking like you've definitely. He's over there going, well, I joined at 7.
That's why I said, what were you, 5? No.
17 delayed enlistment. Mom and
Yeah,
dad had
it
to
was
sign the paperwork.
17.
Still
So your
doing it.
family
Yes.
had to sign.
Yeah,
What a way to keep you young, though.
it is being around the kids. I call them the kids, but giving them training. Playing ice hockey with these guys when I'm out there on the ice. I'm the old guy, but it keeps you young just being around them. Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
And now they look at you as the old guy, but it's neat because now I'm a kind of source of history somewhat to them. But the communication is good. Decompressing sometimes is tougher when I come out of there and I need to wind down some. But
So my other question for you is, we don't always talk about it, but we usually do at some point, wind around to this every show, is suicide awareness. So I know that you ran for several people. That was in your book, right? But do you deal with that at all when you're doing this role playing? Like, have you found opportunities to help people, or in the transition team part of that, have you found opportunities?
Most of it it's afterward. Some of the veterans that are veteran posts and that I was involved with, a lot of them had PTSD issues. COVID was an aggravator to some of that. I had lost, I think, at least 4 that I know of suicide by gunshot. You know, they did their thing. Iraq, Afghanistan, it was tough at that time because when COVID shut everything down, people got in this, I don't know, enclosure. And all the marathon races were shutting down, which led to Boston, but I didn't stop running. All the races shut down. So, well, we got virtual races. So I started taking all these virtual races. They had Purple Heart Day, Memorial Day run. I said, all right, I'm going to run a 20 mile, 15 mile, and I want all you bikers to escort me. And we're going to finish at the cemetery. And we're going to finish back here. We're veterans. We don't give up. All these people locked down. You can't have more than 25 in a group. So we barely get 20 to a meeting. We're still within the confines of whatever they made up. Right. So I was using them parameters and you'll see that in the book, putting wreaths at the cemetery at the Sandhills, or the suicide awareness was one. I did a 22-mile run. I had the bikers ride 20 miles and the groups of 20, whatever, to keep it within the confines. We found a way to do something and not just sit there and, you know, we're veterans. We don't do that. So.
Yeah, no, I thank you for that. We have someone too, same thing that you just described. So I have to say this every time this comes up on the show, everybody. So if you or anyone out there are struggling, please call 988 for help. We would much rather you reach out now than us get a call that is a call that nobody wants to get. And you're more loved here and not elsewhere. So stick with us, call 988 and pick up that phone. There is a reason. So I don't want us to lose anybody else. I understand exactly what you're talking about because of my brother, but during that exact time. So I understand that too. Lori always does this to me. She'll bring somebody on the show literally every week. And she keeps wanting me to get my story out. One day I will, but
May 28th, May 28th.
Do it.
Yeah, well, I don't know. So Dave, we've touched on a lot. So we've touched on a lot of different major occurrences. Your service of 30 years, and you're still in the community right now, serving, giving back, and going forward. You've got the book. It's been out. It's a week.
Yeah, about a week now. Yeah, Propel.
Yeah, Propel.
Yeah.
You got the book.
5 is actually already written.
Oh Lord,
which is about
well
experience. Do you have a name for that one yet?
June. Yeah, it's called Engage. Odyssey of an accomplished role player. And when I was working on my Cold War book, because I got a lot of pictures in all these books, I go through my photo albums. I went to my old 1977 album to look for Cold War pictures. My high school yearbook fell out. And when it fell out, my report card fell out from 1976. So I'm looking at this. I'm not a stellar student, but I had 2 areas with A's. One was physical fitness, kind of explains the running, and then drama class. And I'm thinking,
cool.
I forgot all about that. And I remembered my drama class teacher and all the crazy intros she did. And you're on the stage of life, and you're a sophomore now, and it was just crazy. And so that led to other things later. Everything from Halloweens to role playing to before I even started role playing, it was like a development process to be on a stage of life and just do stuff. And but that initial time in the gymnasium on this big stage, she's up there. She puts in the back of the auditorium, like 500 seats. Can you hear me back here? Can you see me? No, you're small, tiny. I can't hear you. Start walking closer. Am I getting bigger now? Can you hear me now? You're a junior. Sophomore, and now you're a junior. Says, when you're up here and you're on the stage of life and you graduate next year, you're going to have to perform. So she said, it begins with a decision. I said, well, okay, but it takes more than a decision. You got to engage. And that's where the engage title came from. But she made us stand climb the steps to the stage and made us stop at that last rung of the stairs. She says, you're almost there. And then she got on top of the stage and made us hold hands and look out there versus being up here. And she starts doing this hand pirouette. And I says, this lady's going crazy. She said, I am the arms of time. I am a clock. This is my long arm, my short arm, and an hour. And she's doing this pirouette. Use your time wisely, because when you're performing on the stage of life, that's going to be a factor when you graduate. So that set the stage for the things that would come after graduation. And so that report card triggered all kind of thoughts that led to things later to where I am now. Ironically, it ends on Memorial Day last year. Camp McCall. Camp McCall is named after President McCall, who was killed in Africa in 1942. And we did a gig. It was Memorial Day, and I happened to have a wreath in my truck. And I said, it's Memorial Day. Let's honor, Private McCall. So we hung this wreath up, the little ceremony. And then we said, okay, what do we do with the wreath now? So at the entrance of Camp McCall, the Highway 15 501, there's Amando's restaurant, whatever. It's a brand new rotary or roundabout. Well, they have the Camp McCall sign there. So I hung the sign there. It's still there now. I hung the wreath. And my buddy, when I'm there, he's saluting. He's a Marine guy. And I'm tying this thing. And all these cars are honking their horns and woo-wooing. And as I looked at the brand new rotary, I saw my drama class teacher doing her pirouette in the middle of that thing. Like, you did okay, kids, as I'm hanging this. And I'm like,
wow,
how did that come full circle? And that's kind of how it is. So that one's coming out in June. But that's kind of how the way I write.
It sounds like your July book will be full circle. So you've got Engaged that you're still writing, and I think you've got another one in you that's going to be called Full Circle.
Could be. At least that's where that one ends. It might pick up after that.
Yeah, exactly. So many topics to keep up with. So I wanted to make sure that everybody's paying attention there tonight with Chief Master Sergeant David Hamel. That's Hamel, veteran of 30 years. We're talking about Boston. We're talking about Oklahoma. We're talking about 9/11. We are talking about service, sacrifice. We're talking about marathons in all 50 states, literally. And honor, remember, give, and never forget. And here with the Tree of Valor. So I want to make sure anybody that's tuning in kind of sticks by with where we're at with this, with the Tree of Valor. In little bit of time here, Laura, you said to give you a notice. So we have a little bit more time here. And so I'm going to let you and Dave lead the way for the rest of the show here, because I know that you wanted to show something as well.
So are you able to show the video?
Yes.
Okay. So we can show the tree in here.
Yes.
But the very first tree that we ever made for the 13 was a red, white, and blue tree that I literally painted this tree myself. And we used to be at a place called Cooper's Vintage Village. And there's a big old white cabinet there, and we actually have it now. We're doing something very special with the fallen for Memorial Day for this display. But
For all of the fallen, or what are you trying to do?
Actually, shout out to us here. We are doing a Memorial Day event at 6:30 at night. You've got to come see the trees. Everybody has plans during the day, but people don't have plans at night. This is the place to be on Memorial Night, because we have North Carolina families and some families from other parts of the country that are going to be honored on this huge wall outside of the gallery with 16 by 20 photos out there that stay up. And the families are coming to see this unveiling of this wall.
Wow.
And we're going to have, the gallery will be open. People can come in and see the trees. They can bring their picture, 4x6 pictures of any veteran that day. I know it's Memorial Day, but they're welcome to bring photos of the fallen or themselves as veterans. You don't even have to be in a military uniform, but the photo, come and let us recognize you. We're also going to be honoring the 22. I know Memorial Day is supposed to be to remember those that we lost in the act of when they served. But I heard the other day someone say that suicide is a sniper's bullet from 7,000 miles away. And I was like, wow, that's still an act of war. So we will be doing our 22 Not Your Chair salute that day. So veterans are welcome to come and participate in that. We need veterans to come and participate in that. Peach Cobbler Factory is going to be here giving away free ice cream. So it's an important day that we're going to be doing special things, and there's no better place to see your veteran's face than here at night with the trees lit. It's just beautiful. I went on such a tangent. I don't even.
It's the Tree of Valor. So on Memorial Day at night, trying to explain that at night to visit at the Tree of Valor. It is in North Carolina for those that are going to be watching from all over, especially on the radio show 107.5. Shout that out again. Didn't do that much tonight.
But you asked me about the cabinet, what I was doing with that.
You mentioned, yes, you mentioned that you had a tree.
Yes, so the tree, the giant, it's like a, what do you call this? I don't know what you call it. It's just this big shelf, this display unit. And there's 6 shelves in here that each one of those shelves is going to have an 8x10 photo of a veteran, one that was killed in action, one that we've lost in a training incident, one from illness, one from suicide, one on homicide. Leave. That's coming. One on leave, and one that's a homicide. Yes. Because people need to understand that what matters, at least to me in this building, is that you were willing to die for me, a total stranger to you.
Right. And I take it. So this is why I have down here survivors of the fallen. So I take it beyond during your time serving active duty. And a lot of people argue with that. When I say gold star, yes, there's a defining thing in there, and I happen to know it very, very, very well, actually. So gold star, serving active duty, you don't come home, line of duty, military says it, you're gold star. After serving, while serving, in transition of getting out of the military, your transition is not going that great. You're still a veteran. And because of those, whether it is a emotional trauma, whether it is mental health trauma, or it is physical, literally, we do lose a lot of individuals in a lot of different ways that I say we have to remember all. And those that are serving active duty, we immediately go to, and David, you hit on this, and it's because of thinking about the Cold War, World War I, World War II. Think about, the different wars, Vietnam. Think about, the era that you summed up there. We've got, Desert Storm. You were talking about Iraq and Afghanistan and all of that. So OIF, OEF. I know those very, very well, unfortunately. So summing up all of that, there are so many things that happen because when you join the military, I want to just say, basically think about it. You're not going to work as a typical job. So the things that could happen in there are going to be more abundant in your line of what you're doing. So I don't even like to use the word job or work because it is serving and it is for the purpose of the freedoms that we all have and we carry. So I don't like to call it work or a job. You know, I always say it's serving and it's the sacrifice of the ultimate sacrifice. I don't care what you're doing. You've stepped up on that line, you're serving, and now you're not coming home and someone knocks on that door and says, you'll never see them again. That it actually did just give me chills to say it, but it's just awful. It really is. And then I can take it even further than that, because that's why I say survivors of the fallen, meaning the family members, even within families. And I can speak on this part too, so I'm not giving away anyone else's story. I just want to be careful so they don't think I'm talking about their stories unless I have permission. But I do have someone that did take their life because they were super close with the person that I raised with Sergeant Two-Step. So I haven't put that out there that much. But yes, so there are things that happen within the families. There are things that happen within our veteran community to stay aware of and to do more and get involved with, to take care of everybody. So the Tree of Valor is not just, oh, look at there. What picture is this?
So since you were talking about this, and this is,
I know who that is.
This is Kareem. Okay.
Yeah.
And Kareem, of course, was with Dylan
Mhm.
and was one of the 13. And this is his mom, Shanna.
Mhm.
And his brother, oh my gosh, I wish I have his name on here and I don't. I feel terrible. I'm so sorry, Shanna. But his brother, less than a year after she lost Kareem, he took his life. So she visits a graveside that has 2 children.
Mm.
But he was, you know, so when you're talking about paying attention to the families, you know, that's important, because you as a Gold Star mom and her as a Gold Star mom, your grief is so, so extreme yourself. How do you, right? How do you, what do you have? What in your reservoir do you have?
Are you asking me? I write there like Dave over there
for the other kids, you know.
Well, that's
for your
a
other
big,
children.
big thing with me, and you know that the siblings, we've got to take care of the families as a whole. Everyone, I really love our veterans, but I want you to start doing and the families. I want you to start remembering and those siblings. They joined really young, just like David did at 17 years old. He joined the military, not married. And then that meant that there's a mom and there's, you know, any siblings that were there. And you got to think about that somebody got that knock on the door that was when they go too young, then it's really, I don't know. I don't want to get into the feelings of it, the shock of it, but we don't talk enough about that when we're talking about the awareness of, I want the 22 to stay out there, very, very, very aware on that, because living that too. But I also want to just give the emphasis of what you brought up with it's Shauna. And there's another story about that I'll tell you. I have a relative actually named that name, ironically, Lori. So every time you pull up something, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. But I actually do know about, and I do recognize her and her family, and my heart goes out to her too. David, you didn't know you were coming on a show about losing a lot of kiddos, did you?
No, but it's all part of the military experience. You got the servicers, the survivors, the supporters,
And that's how we met.
Yeah, no,
Like that's the
yeah.
beginning of our story together.
Yeah, and my other thing was I did a lot of POW-MI ceremonies to keep the POW-MI accounting going for many years as a past director of that too. So our service doesn't really end. It continues.
You know, I have this saying, just because you made it home doesn't mean you should stay at home.
No, we more so take care of each other. And my last part of Propel, when I closed out the book, someone asked me, what was the reasons for, there's always a why behind things. And looking at these trees here gave me a feeling of when I was at the Heritage Hall Museum in Montgomery, Alabama. Old building built in 1942. We got all these exhibits. And at night when you're closing down, you're the last person in there, and the floors squeak and the wind blows and those mannequins are kind of looking at you, or the trees maybe.
Mm-hmm.
You get that feeling. And as I walked out the door when I was closing the museum at night, I kept looking at Pitzenbarger and Levitot and those guys. Life-size mannequins that are really nice. And I thought, why am I doing this? Am I worthy of their sacrifices? And that kind of developed a silent covenant with them to propel me to do the things I'm doing now. And I kind of closed Propel that way because it's kind of really what it is. Our service don't end. You just keep doing it.
I totally get that. Even just being in here,
yeah, you see the trees and
right. I went through this period earlier in the year. I don't know what had happened, but for a couple of weeks I couldn't come in. I think because people were sick at home and stuff, and I didn't understand what had happened. But I went into this very quickly into this severe depression, and I thought, what in the world is wrong with me? And this place, I tell people this all the time, it is so healing in here. But the moment I walked in, I had to force myself to come because I was so just struggling with something I didn't even understand. But the moment I walked in the door, it was gone, because you can't come in here and feel sorry for yourself. You cannot come in here and think, oh, I think I have a problem. You realize you have to get it together. And I, in minutes, that might sound dramatic, but it is the truth. It's healing in here. And I have so many veterans that, are our favorites, right? Or ones that come in all the time, our regulars. One of them is Hank Williams. He comes in and he says, every time I come in here, he calls this the Vietnam Wall in pictures. I would never say that, but I appreciate that he does. And he said, every time I come in here, it reminds me of my purpose. So
like that.
If you haven't been, you need to come.
Yeah.
So David, to sum it up, I'd like to sum it up here for you. And I do have that video actually loaded, the one that you were trying to get. So I actually do have it. Did you have a particular song like when you were running? Remember, he's also a marathon runner that has been in all 50 states, literally, throughout his journey. Did you have a specific song or something that just kept you going when you were like, I got it.
Oh, there's plenty. But I mean, you can hear the Rocky songs and all that from way back. But
yeah.
Mighty Wings, Cheap Trick. It was a Top Gun movie song, and I just like the music to that, and it gets you fired up and want to go conquer the trail.
All right, so this is a shout out to Jason Ford. I hope you're listening to this. Future author, Navy pilot. Did you hear that? Top Gun. Okay, did you hear that? That was a sign. That was a sign to finish. Say it. Finish your book.
You got to get it from here to here. Doesn't matter if it's ugly. Just get it there, and you can sort it later.
He's going to be a guest. He's going to talk about his book.
Mm-hmm. We've already had one Top Gun movie on, literally. For the soldiers, we've already had. So We Were Soldiers was on there with the Tree of Valor. So yeah, we do. So there with the Tree of Valor, Lori, did you want to do something, or you want me to play the video?
Do you want them to play the original video of the tree that we had?
Sure, whatever you got.
Okay, we can do that, and then when you're done, if you want us to walk over there, we can. But that video is probably a better way to actually see the pictures.
All right, stand by, everybody, and it's from the Tree of Valor, and you put this together. And then I will show this.
And this song is important to mention. This song by Coffee Anderson, if it plays with it, I put it with that video because he personally went to how many of the funerals?
I know for Dylan's, he sang at the funeral.
I want to say at least
a couple of them for the Marines.
I thought almost a half a dozen of them.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
went and
quite a
actually
few.
sang. It's
This
Mr. Red, White, and Blue. So we love your song, Coffee.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he asked us to play the song.
I did. I have to add to that the Boston Marathon finished with the 2 flags. When I came across, I told my buddy Rick, I says, all 4 of us were there. And there's another picture because the sun was behind us. So you had us with the flag, but 2 long shadows with 2 other flags. So there was really 4 of us. And so I put at the end, there's really Mr.'s red, white, and blue that are kind of finishing. So, that's a neat picture, but it just triggered that thought.
I like that. Let's play this. This is put together by the Tree of Valor, and let's see what we have here from Lori. The Tree of Valor here with Dave, as I'm calling him, but it is David Hamel when you're looking for that in the books, and that's Hamel, like Dorothy Hamel, the last name, David Hamel. His author. You can find the books there very easily on Amazon. I'm going to show this and then you can tell me more. This is something that Lori has put together from the Tree of Valor.
It's the guts and it's the glory, 100 stripes, 100 stories. It's the Pledge of Allegiance on the 4th of July. It's them handwritten letters from home. It's them sleepless nights alone. It's his newborn baby he left with his wife. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down his life. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes.
Wow.
Nice. Yep, still resonates today.
Yeah, it does.
Wow.
So his picture, I'm not sure where Tracy's at yet. So I don't know if she can hear us because I really want to tell the story about this when she comes back. I don't know if she can hear us. So I'm going to tell
I definitely can hear you the whole way. I'm between doing our back channels on multiple ones, but I wanted to make sure that we highlighted right there because it wasn't just a tree. Those were actual that was literally, that's the tree for the 13.
Right. So I wanted to just say I took these pictures to another event where I met Dagan Page's mom, who was one of the 13. And I asked her what was the first time I had ever met any of the 13's parents. And so I was super nervous. And I just said, would you like to put their pictures on the tree? And she's like, oh, sure, it's fine. So she goes and she's getting ready to put them on. And she looks at me and she says, this is a lot harder than I thought. I mean, I was surprised she was willing to do it. God bless her. And so, but she knew who, like she would go to put on a picture and then she'd be like, oh no, he has to be with so-and-so. Like she knew as the mama who was friends with who belonged with who. And she saved Dagan for the end. But I said to her, I just want to apologize. I'm like, I know these pictures kind of look weathered and, they kind of look rough. I was embarrassed. And she said to me, the nicest thing anyone's ever said about the pictures. She said to me, do you know what this tells me about these pictures? She said, it tells me you've taken my son a lot of places.
True. Very, very good.
Instead of me being, me continuing, even his as a little spot on it here, today I was fixing another spot that it had worn because I can't duplicate these the way that they are. They're the only ones I've ever really made like this. I mean, I've done other special things for other groups like Sadness at Sea, it's our first memorial tree ever. from July 30th,
And-
2020. So
And really quick before we wrap up, because you're just saying 13, you may want to elaborate for those out there listening who don't even know what we're talking about, because we're using terms that usually on the inside we're going to know what that is. But
right, that was the withdrawal from
just
Afghanistan.
a quick, yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
withdrawal from Afghanistan.
yes.
Where we
And I'm not part of
13.
that, but David.
Right. So there
you
was one
have-
soldier,
Mhm.
one Navy foreman, and then 11 Marines
Mhm.
to make the Kabul 13 or Kabul 13.
The Kabul Abbey Gate at the airport in Afghanistan. Ironically, the Boston Marathon too, there was the one medic that she was from Boston, from Lawrence, Johanny Pichardo, so I have to throw that name in there. But she became part of the marathon story that year too. Just another tidbit of the events that week.
It's all coming back full circle for you, literally, right there in Boston. So you're not supposed to be out of Boston. You're supposed to be, yeah. So I'm glad that you're out there. I'm glad you're out there, and I'm glad you've joined us tonight on Patriots Inside the Wire. We're about to sign off. Lori, is there anything you want to get out there?
Yes, I'm actually, whoops, I turned on my phone for you.
Okay.
So we're gonna give this Dylan's godfather, and we're gonna walk back to the tree in the gallery now. Sorry, I know exactly. And
While
you're
she's
gonna
walking,
place it-
everyone, what
he's
she's
gonna
doing
place
is
it.
she is in the gallery live right
So
now
we're gonna walk back here.
with David Hamel, and she's walking.
Oops. We're gonna walk back here.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, so we're gonna walk back here. I wish the phone would let me. I'm sorry for the echo, guys. So you're gonna put them right there in the middle. So this is their tree now.
Yeah, there's the chart out in Boston or Lawrence.
Mhm.
This is for Dylan. Always loved, never forgotten. And keep your spirit alive. And used to say in California, there, live like Dylan. It's kind of that little better here.
That's okay. Right up on this. There you go.
Yeah. It's a little better there. Great.
I show
This Cowboy 13.
See if I can see
Lion
this.
Doc. Talked about him earlier. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you can see she looks pretty weathered, but she's well loved. So, and this, a biker put that on there. Can you see that, Tracy?
Patches.
Yes.
And he was
Yep.
one of the riders, and he said, don't ever, we met him on Memorial Day years ago, and he said, don't ever take that off. And we never have. And he knelt down in front of this piece that we made and put that on there.
Nice. Yeah, I'm letting you show. Did you want music, or are you wanting to talk? Did you want a song with it, Lori?
Oh, he wants to give them a final salute.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me pull down 1 second.
Go ahead.
Oh, tell us when, Tracy.
Do it again. Thank you.
Thank you. Definitely. Thank you, David, for you and your service. And thank you. You know, it's that is not just a tree. That is giving me chills right there. But that is those are our families. Those are the people that we need to remember and never forget. And we need to always remember their names. And again, we support all those who serve and have served and survivors of the fallen. And we say, man, I say it sucks, but I also say thank you to the ones that are serving, like David here, David Hamel, who's also still involved and staying involved and getting involved, and then including others in the awareness or participating in some ways will help bring together a community in so many ways. There's so much we could do together. So I look forward to doing more of that and bringing people together in ways like David is doing. So thank you for everything you're doing there, and the Tree of Valor as well. And we are, I'm going to bring you back on, Lori. You're muted.
Oh, could we do the best of us with the burn the boats tree? Because that has like the before, during, and after.
Okay. The Best of Us is a song that we have in-house by one of the Two-Step Tribe, literally hosts and owners of Two-Step Tribe and the Sergeant Two-Step Foundation. This is his song, actually, that he's going to be performing. So, yes, I'll play this song here. It's called Best of Us. It's not out yet for consumer, but we'll put it here specifically for this. So I'm going to pull myself down and let you all hear Best of Us right here by Uncle Rhino, and it's Uncle Rhino, Ryano, and you can look up the other music that is out there. All right.
There's a crowd outside my window and they're gathered in the street. They're screaming and they're yelling in the name of peace. War never is the answer, but some battles must be fought. As long as we remember who it is that pays the cost. They are the best of us, those women and men, where angels fear to tread. They charge right in over land or in the air, across some ocean off somewhere. They sacrifice it all for the rest of us. Nobility and honor are so rare these days. Next time you see a soldier, hope you take the time to say you're the best of us. There are two parents in the heartland waving goodbye to their child. Through the rain and down of tears, there is pride in their smile. And the countless single parents raising children on their own, short on money, short on time, trying to keep this house a home. They are the best of us, those women and men in cities, farms and towns. They're our family and friends. Every night they say a prayer for someone fighting God knows where. They sacrifice it all for the rest of us. Nobility and honor are so rare these days. Next time you see a soldier, hope you take the time to say you're the best of us. Oh, you are the best of us. Nobility and honor are so rare these days. Next time you see a soldier, hope you take the time to say you're the best of us. You are the best of us. Hey, you're the best of us. You are the best of us. You're the best of us. You
Oh, sorry, Tracy, we couldn't hear you. We can't hear you.
Thank you so much for joining Patriots Inside the Wire with the Tree of Valor as she was walking around and we were playing. The song is The Best of Us, and that is by Uncle Rhino. There in the Tree of Valor studio, you got to see the different things that were there, and they aren't just things, they're actual people. So, David, it has been a great time getting to know you. There's so much. We need to break it up next time into chapters like your books. Like your series, like we could get in here and just talk about one of the topics with you. So great to meet you. Thank you for what you're doing and what you're continuing to do. And stay in touch. And everybody remember, he has a new book out called Propel. And you can check that out, David Hamel, Hamel, and tune in to see what's happening at the Tree of Valor. Lori, I'm going to say goodnight and sign off. David, it has been great to meet you. I look forward to getting to know you better as well. And thank you for your service. And I'm glad you ran into the trees, as y'all put it.
We wanted to do, sorry. We wanted to do a special shout out to Tyler Vargas Andrews as well. He actually was injured at Abbey Gate. So it just doesn't seem right to talk about the Fallen 13 and not talk about all the Purple Hearts that came home that I think everyone's forgotten about, because we see you too. So we actually did our whole Purple Heart tribute in honor of Tyler.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we've got to remember all. So I like seeing that you're remembering. We've got our Silver Stars out there, the Silver Star families. Purple Heart. We would be both. Yep.
Yeah, she was.
All right. Lori, we're going to sign off here.
Okay.
We're hitting at about 2 hours on Patriots Inside the Wire with the Tree of Valor. Very important night. A lot of information in here. I do advise you, if you're tuning in and listening, to go to YouTube or the website, patriotsinsidethewire.com, and you'll be able to find the actual episode and our channels as well. And you'll be able to see what we're showing you in the actual video if you're just tuning in to radio or a podcast. So thank you for joining us, David. It's been great to have you with us. Thank you again, Lori. Always a great thing to see you and the Tree of Valor. We'll see you again next week with Lori and the Tree of Valor. And David, thank you again. And hope to meet you. I'm sure that we will meet. Eventually we will meet, and I will be there.
Indeed. And you will.
Yep. Oh, Uncle Rhino says hello. The individual that was singing the song is saying hello to you. So he says hello and thank you for your service. So that was the individual that wrote and just did the song that I was playing. I don't know if y'all could hear it. You may have to go back, Lori.
No, we did.
Yeah, we did.
Hear it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, nice.
All right, good.
Nicely done. Appreciate
Yep,
that.
he's signing in to tell you thank you. All right, we're going to sign out now. So have a great night, David and Lori at the Tree of Valor, as I sign out here. We're just going to end this. Thank you so much for joining Patriots Inside the Wire.